Tyrion? What are we doing here? I'm not sure. For some reason, you felt drawn to this place. Wait, is that Eris? Celeste points further into the cemetery. There you see Eris stay in front of a gravestone. She's placing flowers on it and appears to be chanting a short prayer. Well, we found her. We should probably talk to her later. It would be rude to disturb her now. As you're about to leave, Eris suddenly turns to face you. She's far away, but you can see her beckoning you over. Hello there. Were you two looking for me? Sorry, we were looking for you. But we understand if you'd rather talk later. No, I was just finishing up here. Did you have something you wanted to talk to me about? Well, we wanted to ask you some questions about the case. Oh. It's a grave for an individual that you don't know. It'd be best to leave it undisturbed. It's the grave that Eris was at earlier. The name on the stone says Emily Grant, and her lifetime appears to be awfully short. She must have been only 12 years old when she died.
Repario Arcanum!
Oh, we can't see it. That was my first time watching a court trial. You were truly remarkable. Thank you. Were you in the gallery? I've always enjoyed watching physical battles in the theater, but I see now that battles of wits can be just as entertaining to watch. Entertaining. The music here is kinda loud, so I'm hoping you guys can still hear me over it. Yeah, I know what you mean. You see, the odds are stacked against him, but then he suddenly pulls out this crazy deduction and steers the trial in his favor. I've never really thought of it like that. But I'm sure it's far more entertaining to be the one making the deductions. I'm not really sure what you mean. I practice law so that I can help those persecuted by the justice system. I don't really do it to entertain myself. But is that really true? Don't you find the experience even the least bit entertaining? I have to add to her illusion there. Don't you find the experience even the least bit entertaining, Tyrion? I wouldn't really put it that way. You're far too modest. You save people from the clutches of death. To your clients, you might as well be a knight in shining armor. Or dare I say, a hero of light. This one's gonna be a nightmare to edit, I already know. Earlier, you said that you were studying illusion magic. I am. Did you want to ask me about the prosecution's theory? Yes, actually. How did you know? It was easy to guess after seeing you in the courthouse. Anyways, disguising an undead with an illusion is definitely possible. And as Lady Steelwind said, illusory disguise would be the best spell to use for that. What if someone created a freestanding illusion? A freestanding illusion? Yeah, we know that Wallace didn't animate and disguise the professor's corpse. So, what if the illusion wasn't disguising anything? Maybe someone created a freestanding illusion of Bellwether walking around. For something like that, one would probably use Major Illusion. Milluso lasts until dispelled. Three-dimensional illusion can take the form of any object or creature that can be contained in a 10-foot cube. While concentrating, the caster can animate and move the image to a different location within range. The illusion is still purely visual and cannot be physically touched, because the major hiccup here is her breaking the base. What is it? I don't think Major Illusion is what we're looking for. Do you remember what Jan said? I was cleaning a mess in the hallways. Bellwether knocked over a vase, and there were shards and dirt everywhere. If the Bellwether that Jan saw was a major illusion, then she couldn't have knocked over that vase. Illusions created by that spell don't have any mass. I see. How perceptive of you. Aren't there any other illusion spells that do have mass? No. Illusions can only recreate visual and auditory sensations. But there isn't a single illusion spell that someone can touch. So that means that someone disguised something to make it look like Bellwether. There's more fear. Why the look of suspicion, Celeste? Sorry, I wasn't... Calm down, I'm only joking. I don't blame you for considering every possibility. In fact, I'm flattered you think I'm capable of pulling off such an elaborate ruse. Anyways, this does tell us one important thing. What's that? The bellwether that Jan saw had a physical mass to it. It wasn't a freestanding illusion. It was someone or something disguised as bellwether. 30 minutes before the twins found the body, walked past Jan in the west wing hallway. He was in her path, shoved him out of her way, knocked over a vase, shattered it. Even though Jan didn't speak, she screamed to be quiet, then walked into the lecture hall. It's quite a shame, isn't it? Eris looks pensively at the gravestone. The name on the stone says Emily Grant, and her lifetime appears to be awfully short. She must have only been 12 years old when she died. Sorry for interrupting you. Was she someone you knew? Not personally. I'm actually here on Wallace's behalf. Wallace knew her? Wallace joined the Academy as part of a program run by Headmaster Redmond. At the time, the Redmaster was reaching out to mages among the common folk. He had started a program to admit these mages to the Academy without having to pay tuition. Both Emily and Wallace were among those mages. Wow, that must have been an amazing opportunity for them. The truth is, neither of them actually cared about learning magic. The real problem was that Emily had a terminal illness. She and Wallace were poor orphans, and they obviously didn't have the resources to treat it. But if they enrolled in the Academy would be obligated to give her medical treatment. The Imperial Academy teaches the best mages in the kingdom. They thought that curing her illness would be an easy task for the Academy's healers. But they were mistaken, I'm afraid. I'm sure you know this by now, but healing spells can only treat wounds. They can't cure illnesses. Emily's condition only got worse over the years, and eventually, she succumbed to her illness. Wallace was furious. He didn't understand why the kingdom was outlawing magic that could save lives. And that's why he decided to learn it himself. Yes, the headmaster was inspired by Wallace's resolve. He gave him access to the Academy's forbidden tomes of necromancy. And Wallace taught himself the spells that he knows today. So that's why it was supposed to stay a secret between him and the headmaster. But I'm sure you know how that turned out. That time she didn't say my name, so... What is this? Can't tell you everything you need to get through the case. I'm just gonna try one more time, because this does stall things out a little bit. It's just I'm curious if there's like any Easter eggs anywhere. Lady Steelwind is really something. Yeah. I feel like she's always one step ahead of me. But she does have a habit of relenting when she realizes she's wrong. I think you deserve a worthier adversary. I mean, she can be a pain sometimes. But I'm glad that she pursues justice even if it means she loses. It's strange. You'd have never seen yourself holding such high respect for a noble. Anyways, I wonder what would drive a noble like her into becoming a lowly prosecutor. I'd love to know the story behind that. These all reset too? Yeah, I'm not gonna mark these.
Repario Arcanum!
There's still a lot we don't know. Yeah. We know that Wallace didn't kill her, but the true killer really murdered... Did the true killer really murder her there? Right, you'll need to go there to find out more. Where should we go next? The prosecution believes that Wallace killed Bellwether in the library. We didn't really investigate that room the first time around. We might be able to find some new leads there. Oh, see you, Mr. Cuthbert. Steelwind, what are you doing here? After what happened at the trial yesterday, I decided it would be best to start my investigation here. Right. Wallace was in the library for the entire morning, so it wouldn't make sense that she'd start her search here. Actually, since I have you here, have you seen Eris Ilmater anywhere? It's my understanding that you're both acquainted with each other. Eris? What do you want with her? It's not for anything serious, mind you. It's just that oaf of a commoner lost her spell compendium. Now we need her to produce another one for our records. If you see her, please let her know that we'd like to speak to her. We saw her earlier in the cemetery nearby, but I have no idea where she is now. Once again, I have to compensate for that idiot's mistakes. Anyways, I was wondering if I could ask you some questions about the case. Very well, I suppose I still need to honor a deal from earlier. That's on my to-do list. Didn't you? I'm meaning to ask, do you guys worship dragons in Wyvern? Never really been the religious type. I've seen some devout worshippers in the capital. It's the most prominent religion here. The Scaled Lord Withalion is said to be the source of all arcane magic. It's no wonder that he's such a large part of our culture. Full of books for educational purposes. Too bad they don't have any fictional books. Were you looking for a novel to read? Yeah, I was hoping they'd have some mystery novels I could read. You like mystery novels? Of course! Why do you think I like this job so much? I've never really been a fan of the mystery genre. What? But your whole career is about solving mysteries. Exactly, it's exhausting. When I read a novel, I just want to read about simple fantasy stories and classic heroes. Guess that makes sense. What about you, Steelwind? I don't really have time for such things. It's a globe of the world. It's amazing how many other nations there are aside from Wyvern. I've been to most of those places. You should come with me next time, Tyrion. Isn't traveling through the border heavily restricted? Oh, don't worry, I won't report you. Can't exactly blame you for wanting to leave. Due to constant misuse of the Arcane Construct's voice systems, the voice lines can only be set by Headmaster Redmond. Is that why I can't make the construct say things? The constructs speak using Professor Bellwether's voice. Unfortunately, that was an open invitation to many of the students. A lot of them order the constructs to speak several obscenities using her voice. But why is Headmaster Redmond the only person allowed to set the voice lines? There were also rumors that several faculty members partook in those pranks. So, having taught for 1 year before bailing, I can attest to us doing that. Just to give you a very quick story to tell you how twisted things are. So I was with a US government teacher. This is a high school, keep in mind. We found a phone lying around that was unlocked. We didn't know who it was. When you turned the thing on, you saw a picture of 2 students on it, so we figured it was one of them. And to prank the students, the history teacher took a selfie of himself and then took it to the Lost and Found. As it turns out, the phone belonged to the economics teacher. She left it in a classroom. 2 students took a selfie of it and then put it somewhere. A teacher found it, took a selfie, put it somewhere. The 2 students we knew of found it, took a picture, put it somewhere. Then the history teacher found it. So when it got back to the economics teacher, she had all these unwanted pictures on the thing. And I'm going to tell you what I did. I plead the fifth. Can't blame them for wanting to let off some steam. There are tables for students to sit at while they study. I don't think I could handle studying here day after day. Yeah, I wasn't really big on the library in college either. Although, that's a different prank that I'm not going to bother you guys with today. When I graduated, the teachers were actually impressed I learned anything while I was there. Have you had any luck finding the scene of the crime? Unfortunately, I haven't. From the witnesses' testimonies, we have a rough idea of the route Bellwether took. But none of the rooms we've checked have any sign of a struggle. And I think I just pieced it together. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys, but let's see if I'm correct. Why are you so sure that a struggle happened? I'm mainly basing that off the Yanu's sister's testimonies. Valerie in particular noticed that the bleeding came from a wound in her stomach. Regrettably, the body's wounds were mended, so we can't determine what kind of weapon the murderer used. During the trial, you mentioned that another witness saw Bellwether walking around yesterday. Would you be willing to tell us who that person is? I'm sorry, but I can't tell you that. You were caught a little off guard. You've been pretty transparent with your investigation so far. What's changed? I have no obligation to justify myself to you, nor do I have an obligation to help the opposition. Didn't we have a deal? Hiding information doesn't exactly seem fair to us. I believe I've given you plenty of information already. So regardless of what I said before, the answer is still no. Her family is dangerous. The Eye of Horus catches a stray thought from her. Her family is dangerous. What does that mean? Is there something about this witness's family that you're worried about? No, this could be a feint. I'm sorry, but you'll have to try harder than that if you want to bluff me. She referred to the witness as her. Furthermore, she said that her family is dangerous. Why would she go to such lengths to hide the witness's identity? In any case, it looks like she's not willing to share more at the moment. Maybe you should try looking somewhere else. Just to make sure we did everything. Nothing there. Anyone ever identify this yet? Oh well. Wait, that's where, Crud, I can't remember what her name is now. This is where Eris was, so let's check here. You spent some time wandering through the academy when you overhear a conversation from a nearby room. From what I understand, Miss Steelwind has already moved the investigation elsewhere. How long must I wait before I can retrieve my things? Sorry, old-timer. Orders are orders. Nothing comes in or out till this case is over and done with. Commander White, and the headmaster too? Oh, hello, Mr. Cuthbert. Hey, kid. In any case, there are other matters I must attend to. Please inform me when I can reclaim my things. Sure. It looks like Commander White is standing guard in front of this locker room. And it doesn't look like he's conducting any sort of investigation. Is he here on Steelwind's orders? He might be able to tell you who this secret witness is. I'm sure he's just here enjoying his break. There are several lockers in this room. It would be impossible to search through them all. You should speak with Commander White before trying to search through them. Where's the fun in that? What was the headmaster talking to you about? Supposedly, he has some items stored in one of the faculty lockers. Problem is, Steelwind said no one gets in or out of this room. Except for her and you two, apparently. She won't even let the other knights in here. Really? Is that normal? Nope. Things rarely are when she's calling the shots. Why would she give you access to the crime scene if she wasn't even letting the knights in? So we have her orders there. Celeste, that's the pink-haired girl's name. I don't know what her deal is, but she's been acting strange lately. She's been real paranoid, that girl. Frankly, I can't tell what's going through her head. You mentioned that the prosecutor's been paranoid lately. Do you think it has something to do with this case? Nah, started way before that. Lately, she's been using the Inquisition to investigate a lot of non-magical homicides. What? Wouldn't it be easier to work with the relevant law enforcement for that? I don't know why, but she's convinced that these cases have magic involved. But we scanned each and every one of those crime scenes. Nothing turned up. Gotta say, though, if it weren't for the scans, I might actually agree with her. Why do you say that? Those homicides, I haven't even seen anything like them. They're probably some of the most screwed up cases I've ever handled. So it looks like we're going up against Jack the Ripper in the end. For one of those cases, we had ourselves a disgruntled spouse. She found out that her man was going around with a barkeep. And you know what the spouse does? She stalks the poor woman. She starts leaving her threatening notes all around where she worked. The barkeep told the city watch all about what was happening. But no matter how much they staked out the tavern, they could never catch the perp. Then one day, the barkeep arrived home. But little did she know, the spouse was waiting there for her. Poor lady never had a chance. Then to tie the whole thing together, the spouse waits for her husband to get home. She cooks him a big roast, using the barkeep's remains. Well, you had to get rid of the evidence somehow. I mean... Wow, that story is pretty... I know. Steelwind thinks someone's developed a new type of magic that can control people's minds. And these homicides were some kind of sick test run. Magic that can control people's minds. But wouldn't Mage Blight make more sense? Mage Blight? When a mage overuses their magic, it can have pretty bad consequences on their mind. They temporarily lose grip of reality and begin seeing things that aren't there. When a mage becomes like that, it almost never ends well. They enter a frenzy and begin firing spells randomly, which only makes it worse. I've seen my fair share of Mage Blight cases, and this isn't like that. Not all the perps are mages, and the ones that were didn't even use their magic. One thing though is that each of the perps almost seemed to wake up after we arrested them. All of them said things like, "It wasn't me," or "I didn't have a choice." Outside of punctuation problem in the previous box. They didn't have a choice. What does that mean? I doubt it means anything. Sometimes people can't face the things they've done. It's easier to say that you had no control than to take responsibility. You wonder if you can mislead the commander into revealing who the secret witness is. During the trial, Miss Steelwind mentioned that someone other than Jan Hughes saw Bellwether walking around. Have you seen them around lately? We wanted to speak with them. Nice try, kid. Well, it was worth a shot. Honestly, I couldn't tell you if I wanted to. I don't think anyone other than Steelwind knows who this witness is. I sure as hell don't. What? She's even hiding it from the Inquisition commander? Why is she being so secretive? Looks like the commander doesn't know who the secret witness is either. This isn't getting us anywhere. Steelwind's behavior is strange, though. Perhaps you could try analyzing her behavior. If you do that, you might be able to find a way to convince her to help you. Okay. Steelwind's behavior has been strange this time around. She's hiding elements of the case, even from the commander. Anyone can tell that she doesn't have much faith in him. I'm standing right here. But this is the first time I've seen her hide key details of a case from him. There has to be a reason why she's being so secretive. Her actions must be driven by paranoia. She's been hoarding information about the case. There's only one reason why she wouldn't utilize the Inquisition like she usually does. It's because she doesn't trust them. Hate to say it, but that doesn't really surprise me. She's always been standoffish with us. But there is one exception. There are individuals who she's trusted more than the Inquisition during this case. She let us investigate the crime scenes without any restrictions. Yeah, never really thought about that. Does she trust us that much? I don't think that personal trust is the reason. We don't usually interact with her, and she's worked with the Inquisition on plenty of cases that we weren't even involved in. So we're looking for Wallace here. I'm gonna say controlled by. Oh, I get it. Tyrion isn't. Steelwind doesn't know much about us, but she does know that we aren't prone to noble corruption. Right, you indicted a noble during the last case. Meanwhile, the Inquisition usually bends to the nobility's whims. Well, I can't argue with you there. Using my insight, I can tell that she's worried about the witness's family. And if she's worried about corruption from the nobility, that can only mean one thing. The witness is a noble. The witness has to belong to a noble family. That's why she's so wary of interference. But we're obviously not going to do anything corrupt. Why is she hiding the witness's identity from us? You recall seeing a thought through the eye. So regardless of what I said before, the answer is still no. Her family is dangerous. I think she's worried about our safety. Yeah, I guess harassing a noble could put you in danger. But I'm the protege of the infamous Ruby Timora. Yeah, it's not as if we aren't already on the nobility's bad side. I'm sure the Pierce family still has it out for us. This could only mean that the family we're dealing with is even more powerful than the House Pierce. If the prosecutor's wary of them, this could be even as powerful as the Steelwinds. Wait, don't tell me you think we're dealing with one of the Four Pillars. Four Pillars? It's a name people use for the top four noble houses. These families stand at the top of the kingdom's aristocracy. If I recall correctly, the Four Pillars are House Frega, House Von Sanctus, House Sybil, and House Steelwind. Steelwind is a part of them? Yeah, which makes it so much weirder that she's serving as a prosecutor. So we now have the clue about the Four Pillars. What is it? Steelwind's weird behavior all started after she investigated this room. We were at the crime scene and she left to follow a lead. But an hour later, she came back to the lecture hall and booted everyone out. Her behavior changed after investigating this room. That means that she found something here. And that something must point to a family from the Four Pillars. The commander looks a bit anxious. You know, Steelwind's orders say I can't snoop around here, but you two, on the other hand, don't worry, just leave it to us. I have some school records that say which locker belongs to which student. You can use it to tell whose locker you're looking at. Seriously, what is this? Oh, there's an arcane construct in the back here. It's probably here to aid the students. Anyways, I don't think it's relevant to our investigation, but perhaps you should make a small note of it anyways. So that would be the, walking corpse, so to speak. You use the legend that the commander gave you. You look carefully across the list and find some notable student names. You open Wallace's locker. Inside, you find a bottle of fragrant liquid and something that looks like a makeup kit. Huh. I didn't expect Wallace to use stuff like this. It does seem strange, but it's not your place to judge. Anyways, you should try looking through the other lockers. You use the legend the commander gave you. So normally the fragrance would make me suspect he would be dealing with, well, actually animating the bodies, I should say, because he's trying to cover the smell of decay. So let's check Frega. Inside, you find a stack of worn-out textbooks and notebooks. Wait a minute. These notebooks all have Wallace's name on them. You open the notebook and look through its pages. It appears to be research on the art of necromancy. These are Wallace's notebooks. But why are they in Miriam Frega's locker? Did Miriam steal his things? What's going on here? You and Celeste check the locker more thoroughly. Wait a minute. Tyrion, take a look at this. That's blood. You use the legend the commander gave you. You open Jaden Von Sanctus's locker. Inside you find several bottles of some kind of transparent lotion. There's nothing but lotion in here. Oh. I wonder why a student would need this much lotion. You take one of the bottles to inspect it more closely. Wait, Tyrion, don't touch those with your hands! It's some kind of sanitizing liquid. It's a little strange, but it doesn't seem to be related to the case. You open Warren Sybil's locker. Inside you find some textbooks and a neatly stacked deck of tarot cards. Oh, it's like those cards that fortune tellers use. I wonder if the student studies divination magic. But anyways, I don't think this is related to the case. We found a few things, but I can't really make sense of any of it. We should look at this from the prosecutor's perspective. Steelwind found something in one of the lockers. And whatever that was, it made her extremely paranoid. Oh, right there, I went past it. No matter how we look at it, we found some insanely suspicious things in Frega's locker. It had Wallace's notebooks and even some blood. But that blood is certainly strange. It implies that something bloody was stored there. Do you think someone stole it? No, actually. I think it was Steelwind who took it. Oh, right. Orin mentioned that she investigated this room. She must have taken the bloody item as evidence. But with that said, there's something else that's strange about Miriam Frega's locker. It had a lot of Wallace's possessions. It's possible that she really did steal these items from him. But it's more likely that this locker isn't actually hers. Remember what Wallace told us before. Sometimes the other students would steal the ID numbers off my locker. Then they'd switch it with the number of another locker. They thought it was funny whenever the students who owned that locker got angry with me. So someone switched the nameplates? This means that this isn't Miriam Frega's locker, it's Wallace's. But that would mean that the bloody object came from Wallace's locker. It appears so. So now it's been updated, the evidence that is. But if that's true, why didn't Steelwind present the bloody item during the trial? I proved that Bellwether was wounded before Valerie healed her. Wouldn't that have been the perfect time to present what she found? It was a bloody item found in the defendant's locker, after all. She could have easily proved that the nameplates were switched too. Right, that is weird. There's something more to this that you aren't seeing, but what? I think we'll just have to ask Steelwind ourselves. What's the deal with this? Just making sure we got everything there. The examine just takes us back to that screen. Oh, you're back. We've uncovered a few things during our investigation. Miss Steelwind, are you acquainted with a student named Miriam Frega? I underestimated him. I said it before, Mr. Cuthbert, I won't fall for such an obvious bluff. It's not a bluff, Miss Steelwind, and I'll prove it using this evidence we've gathered. So we have her profile. Steelwind is paranoid, and for whatever reason it's due to the involvement of Miriam Frega. If you could convince her to reveal why she's being so secretive, she might give you more information. You've been behaving strangely, Steelwind. Even the Knights of the Inquisition have noticed. Please just tell me, why are you being so paranoid? I'm not sure what you're trying to imply, Mr. Cuthbert. Nothing about my behavior has changed. So I wanted to leave this open so you guys could see it, but it is obscuring part of the screen, so if you'll read her profile real quick. Extremely logical, won't accept arguments that aren't supported by evidence. She's become secretive lately, and her actions stem from paranoia. She's uneasy about case elements that relate to Miriam Frega, and she's inclined to hide Frega's involvement from the court at all costs. I've approached this case objectively, just like I have with every other case. You've ordered the Knights to stay away from the crime scene, and you've even taken it upon yourself to conduct the investigation yourself. That is not normal behavior for a prosecutor. I took those actions because the Inquisition is incompetent. How could I possibly trust them with anything? The Knights are incompetent, but even you can see the value of delegation. During Celeste's case, you still delegated tasks to the Inquisition, and you could have easily investigated the McCoy Tavern yourself. This academy is huge. You wouldn't conduct your investigation this way unless you had a good reason. Then why don't you enlighten me? Why would I act in such a way? What would cause me to behave so strangely? You know that the Inquisition is corrupt and will bend to the nobility. So what would happen if a powerful noble were publicly involved in this case? With that noble's influence, they'd probably order the Inquisition to conceal their involvement. A high-profile noble is involved in this case, Steelwind, and I believe that noble is Miriam Frega. Again with this, do you think you can bluff me by throwing out the names of random nobles? Not every noble is a malevolent criminal like Garrick Pierce. I've said it before and I'll say it again. My investigation doesn't involve the Fregas. Nothing about this case had to do with House Frega. Then how do you explain this, Steelwind? The commander told us that you were following a lead in the locker room yesterday. We investigated the lockers of students from the Four Pillar families, and we found stains of blood in a locker with Miriam Frega's ID number, and it was presumably left by a bloody object. The bloody object was taken by someone, and we heard that you became extremely paranoid after you found something in the locker room. If I had to guess, I'd say that you took the bloody object as evidence. And what evidence do you have to support these outrageous claims? What? The only thing you have is evidence of a bloodstain. There is a myriad of explanations for that. Everything else you mentioned is pure speculation. I could have found any number of things in that room, or possibly nothing at all. So I kind of like the threaten option. You found an object in the locker with Miriam Frega's nameplate on it. If you don't present what you found to the court, I'll have no choice but to pull the owner of that locker onto the stand. That's ridiculous. We both know that the locker in question belongs to Wallace Nightgrave. Can you unequivocally prove that, Miss Steelwind? Because the way I see it, there's a lot of room for doubt in there. Enough doubt for me to pull Miss Frega onto the witness stand. But if I had more context, maybe I wouldn't have to resort to that. Well played, Mr. Cuthbert. I suppose I don't have a choice, do I? Just so we're clear, I wasn't acting to protect the nobility. But I'll admit that Miriam Frega was the other witness that saw Bellwether that day. I see. I had some suspicions, but there's also another matter. Steelwind looks uneasy. When I was investigating the body, I found this. A tightly packed folder containing several documents. Documents contained evidence detailing multiple instances of plagiarism, fraud, bribery of school officials, and various other offenses committed by Miriam Frega. What the? Looks like Miriam's been cheating at school. But why would Bellwether have something like this? From the way it's arranged, I think it might have been blackmail. Miriam Frega is considered a prodigy in the practice of conjuration magic. She's won a litany of awards, and she will most definitely graduate with honors. If these files were to reach the public, it would absolutely ruin her reputation. Do you think that the professor was trying to threaten her? It appears so. When I discovered this, several elements of the case were still unknown. I decided to look through her belongings, and I mistakenly looked through the locker with her ID. I found this in that locker. So we have the bloody rapier, and that looks more like a broadsword, just saying. A rapier covered in blood. It was found in Wallace Nightgrave's locker. Apparently it's a valuable family heirloom to House Frega. It was reported stolen by Miriam Frega weeks before the murder. It's very likely that this is the murder weapon. This rapier is a valuable family heirloom for House Frega. And a few weeks ago, Miriam reported that the rapier was stolen from her room. And then it was found in Wallace's locker. Not that I'm complaining, but why didn't you present this in court? To be honest, I'd like to avoid involving House Frega by any means necessary. I knew it. You're just protecting her, aren't you? Miss McCoy, do you recall how Wyvern Guard's justice system works? To acquit a defendant, you need to unequivocally prove that they didn't commit the crime. To do that, they either need a solid alibi, or we need to prove that someone else committed the crime. What do you suppose will happen if you bring Miriam Frega onto the stand? House Frega won't allow one of its members to be indicted in a court of law. They'll plant and forge evidence to implicate your defendant, and they'll use the Inquisition to do so. So that's why you've been keeping them away from the investigation. Can't you do anything? The Steelwinds are powerful too, aren't they? I don't have the support of my house. Right now, I'm just a prosecutor, nothing more. So I'm thinking the mind controller's from her family, isn't it? Steelwind, you know this isn't fair for us. Just do nothing. Do nothing and let us win. Celeste, if we can't go after Miriam, then you can at least help us save Wallace. I'm not gonna do that. Why? What if Miriam Frega is the real killer? Her sword is the murder weapon, and Bellwether was trying to blackmail her. I seem to recall another case where an innocent person's sword was used to frame them. That's... As a prosecutor, it is not my place to decide who's guilty and who's not. I won't engage in corruption, even if it's to counter corruption from another noble house. I'm sorry. Do you know where Miriam is right now? Didn't you hear what I just said? You can't let her think that there's even the slightest possibility you'll indict her. She'll bring the entire wrath of House Frega down on you. Regardless, I can't do anything for Wallace unless I know everything that happened. Frega has the last piece I need to put everything together. Well, I suppose I don't have much of a choice, do I? Her dormitory room is 107. I imagine she'll be there considering classes are suspended. Thank you, Steelwind. If I don't tell you, I'm sure you'll probably just find out using some other means. But please, Mr. Cuthbert, be careful. Figure what this is yet? You follow Miss Steelwind's directions and find Miriam Frega's dorm room. The door leading inside seems a lot more ornately decorated than the other dorms. You go to knock on the door, but you don't realize that it's only partially closed. As your fist comes in contact with the wood, you accidentally push the door wide open. Excuse me? How dare you barge into my room? These insects have no respect. Anger. Sorry, I meant to knock, but... Construct, remove these hoodlums from my room. Acknowledged. From the corner of the room, an arcane construct stands up and starts making its way toward you. Before you can protest, it raises its fist to hit you. You only have enough time to raise your arms and brace yourself for the impact. You close your eyes and wait for the blow, but instead you hear the clang of steel against steel. Confused, you open your eyes and see Celeste standing between you and the construct. Her sword is drawn and she's using it to block the construct's fist. Upon taking a closer look at Celeste, the student stares curiously at her. Construct, stand down. Acknowledged. I'm terribly sorry for that. I wasn't aware that was your servant. Celeste looks angry and puts away her sword without a word. I haven't noticed you around campus. Are you a new student? If she has a personal attendant, she must be important. What? You see an opportunity. Yes, my master just enrolled here recently. What? Celeste gives you a puzzled look, but you make a silent gesture back. After a moment, she seems to realize what you're doing. Yes, I just started here. I take it you're Miriam Frega. Yes, I'm honored that you recognize me. You can see she's a conjurer. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, miss. I'm Celeste. She catches herself and pauses for an awkward moment. Steelwind, I'm Celeste Steelwind. You can't believe her. There's no way she's going to believe. Steelwind? It's a pleasure to meet another member of such an esteemed house. She must be from a branch family. Maybe I can use her. Wait, she's actually buying this? I just moved in, and I thought that I should introduce myself. Seeing as you're a top student in the field of conjuration. Yes. Well, there's no backing out now. Miss Frega, I was wondering if we could ask you some questions about Excuse me? I don't believe anyone has permitted you to speak. Here we go. Celeste is still smiling, but you can faintly hear her grinding her teeth together. So, we heard about what happened to Professor Bellwether. I can't believe it. Yes, it's quite tragic what happened to her. She has always been an acquaintance of House Frega. She appears to be more receptive to Celeste. Might be better to let her take the lead on the questioning. We heard that you saw her on the day of the murder. Could you tell us more about what happened? Oh, you heard about that from your relative, did you? If you don't mind me asking, why are you so interested? She's not like Aria, is she? Oh, you know, I'm just curious is all. You know how uneventful life can be sometimes. Being a noble and all. Alright, tone it down. Is that all? I was worried you were going down the same path as that poor, confused Aria. What does she mean by that? But I'm in the middle of a study break anyways. I suppose I have some time to sate your curiosity. Construct, please prepare some tea. Use that lotus tea we imported from the Eastern Kingdoms. She could be useful if I can win her favor. Acknowledged. Lotus tea? You have lotus juice? You feel like you're slowly losing control of the situation. I'm not gonna bother with the present crap. I heard you saw the professor on the day of the murder. Where did this happen? I was in the hallways when I saw her coming out of the headmaster's office. She was heading towards the library. Do you remember what time this happened? I'm not really sure, honestly. It's a little embarrassing, but I have a bad habit of getting too absorbed in my work. Sometimes I'll let entire hours pass by without noticing. Do you have a rough idea, at least? I think it was in the morning. She thinks it was in the morning. But anyways, did anything seem off about her? No, it was a short encounter. Shock. I merely greeted her and she responded in kind. Or at least that's what should have happened. That thought just now, what does it mean? You slowly glance at Celeste and catch her attention. In small motions you shake your head to indicate that Miriam's holding something back. Were you and the professor really on good terms? I heard she was pretty mean towards the other students. Towards the riffraff maybe, but not to students like us. She was a great ally to House Frega, or at least she used to be. That's why we were planning on appointing her as the new headmaster. Wait, what did you just say? Did you just say that your family is going to appoint Bellwether as the new headmaster? Oh, I'm surprised you didn't know. House Frega holds several seats on the Academy's board. We were making plans to have her replace that lout Redmond. They were going to sack the headmaster. Did Headmaster Redmond know about this? Of course not. This was part of a large-scale plan. Along with Redmond, we were also going to replace all of the staff members with arcane constructs. We had to keep everything under wraps, or else the help would have left prematurely. And where would that leave us? But Jan supposedly overheard Bellwether talking about the constructs. Did Bellwether prematurely reveal the plan, or was Jan lying about how he found out? But alas, with Bellwether gone, we'll have to delay our plans. So, they're planning to fire Redmond, replace him with Bellwether, fire all the Academy staff, replace him with the constructs. According to Jan, Bellwether revealed the plan to the headmaster during a meeting a few weeks ago. So, we heard that Aria took your rapier as evidence for the case. Can you believe her? She still won't give it back to me. My father will have my head if I can't get it back soon. How did it even become a part of the investigation anyways? I don't know. Aria won't tell me anything. I swear, if that necromancer is the one who stole it, I'll execute him myself. So someone did steal it from you? Yes, from right out of my room. When did this happen? About a few weeks ago. I noticed when I came back from one of my classes. Someone removed the rapier from its display case in my room. How did they get into your room in the first place? Do you think someone used magic to teleport past the door? Please, I'm a master of conjuration magic. If someone attempted that, my enchantments would have shunted them out. This means the thief came through one of the doors or windows. I bet it was that necromancer. I'm sure a street child like him just knows how to pick a lock. Anger. I've heard that you're one of the Academy's top students. Your grades must be amazing. Of course. As the inheritor of House Frega, my grades are impeccable. So we can see the ecstasy here. Feels good to have my grades recognized. That's strange. You don't see anything contradictory through the eye this time. You make a gesture towards Celeste to continue pressing her. Oh, what kind of magic do you study here? You must be joking. I study magic from the School of Conjuration. Just like most members of my house. The School of Conjuration? That's the type of magic that specializes in spatial manipulation and teleportation, right? Yes. I consider myself quite the expert in that field. Why, the Crown Prince himself has asked for my assistance in a research study. It's nice to work with someone of my caliber and more ecstasy. Again, you don't see any thoughts that contradict what she's saying. Does that mean she's not lying? If she's smart enough to get the Crown Prince's attention, why would she be cheating? You said something about my wayward relative before. Were you talking about Aria? Oh, I'm terribly sorry if I offended you. But I'm sure it must pain you to see the way that she's been acting lately. Yes, it's been extremely hard. Hang in there, Celeste. Did you know that she even interrogated me about the murder yesterday? Can you believe it? A Steelwind running around a crime scene like a common knight. Why, if I tried something like that, my father would disown me. Anger. Does the nobility not approve of Steelwind becoming a prosecutor? You always thought that it is strange. What is motivating her to do this? Honestly, she probably thinks she can do anything just because of her betrothed. Aster deserves better. Celeste's eyes perk up upon hearing this. You'd be lying if you weren't also curious about who this Aster is. But you shoot her a stern look that tells her to stay focused. You can't risk blowing your cover for some gossip. You have an arcane construct in your room. I thought they only had them in the library and the locker room. This construct was a gift from House Von Sanctus. I have to say, they're quite convenient to have around. They look really cool. Maybe I should get one. You should. A construct would be far more useful than this attendant of yours. Anger. Unfortunately, there are still some issues with their intelligence. Their intelligence? There are issues when you give them complex commands. It might be easier to show you. Miriam turns to the construct and begins gesturing towards it. Construct, please retrieve my textbooks and bring them here. Then cast Steelwind Strike at this location. After that, retrieve some plates and set them out at this table. Acknowledged. What? The construct stands up and retrieves Miriam's textbooks from one of the shelves in the room. It brings them to the table you're sitting at, just like she ordered. But then it suddenly stops moving. Wait, what happened? The construct obviously can't cast Steelwind Strike, so my second command was impossible to carry out. But did you notice something else? It ignored your third command too. Correct. My third command was possible to carry out. So why did it ignore that command? Constructs execute a series of commands in the order they are given. But let's say one of those tasks is impossible to complete. When the construct gets to that task, it will deem the entire series impossible to complete. As a result, it will stop executing the series altogether. So if a task in a series of commands is impossible, then that command will interrupt the sequence of commands. Exactly. So right there we get the logic limitation. Basically just tell you for task A, B, and C, if B is impossible, it'll do A but not C. Lady Steelwind, I'm afraid we must leave for now. Lady Steelwind, I'm afraid we must leave now if we want to make our next engagement. Oh, right. Let's go, servant. Oh, leaving already? It was a pleasure talking to you. Yeah, sure. I hope to see you around. You make your way back to the foyer with Celeste. With all the time you've spent, you only have a brief amount of time before night falls. Are you sure you didn't want to talk to her more? We were getting a lot out of her. We already got a lot of useful information out of her. The more time we spend with her, the more likely she is to see through our ruse. Right? So, why Steelwind? I don't know, I panicked. Aria is like the only noble I know. What about Piers? I'm not using that creep's name. Well, hopefully Steelwind doesn't mind us borrowing her name. And we got her statement on what she saw that day. And there's also what she said about her rapier. I bet she was lying when she said it was stolen. She was probably trying to establish an alibi. I'm not so sure. Why do you say that? Doesn't it feel too obvious? If she was lying about the rapier being stolen, that would imply that she planned all of this out in advance. But if she had to choose a murder weapon, why would she choose something that literally has her name on it? I'd understand if the murder was a spur-of-the-moment decision. She might have just used something nearby in this case. But if this was a premeditated murder committed by Miriam, that rapier would be the last weapon she would choose. Right, I guess that makes sense. There's also the evidence of academic dishonesty. It doesn't match up with what we heard from Miriam. You mean all that stuff about working with the Crown Prince? Isn't she supposed to be crowned, not crowned? But I'm not entirely sure. I don't really care about royalty crap. She was probably just making things up to look good in front of me. I have an insight when it comes to things like this. Under normal circumstances, I can usually tell when someone is lying. And a lie as grandiose as that would be something I would definitely see through. People can subconsciously shield themselves from this eye of Horus, even if they don't know about it. But when they do that, you usually can't see any thoughts from them. You also saw that she was lying about her encounter with the Bellwether. You would have seen dissonant thoughts if she was lying about her grades. Well, I guess I'll trust your insight. But what does this mean? I don't know. Even with everything we found, I'm still not sure who the real culprit is. At the very least, I think we should still try to pull Miriam onto the stand. If she testifies in court, I might be able to find something I can use. But that's a big maybe. If you don't play your cards right, you might spook the Fregas enough for them to pay off the judge. Either way, it's getting late. We'll probably have to turn in soon. Yeah. You just hope you did enough to acquit Wallace.